So this is the file called the final data cleansing file. So this basically is the compact version that when you run it, it produces the final version of the clean data. So I'm just sort of going to go through this code as like an overview of what's within this file. It includes like exploration and wrangling of the data set. This does not include our previous failed attempts. All code that includes failed attempts of data or failed data exploration or analysis, including the TF-IDF portions, are within the GitHub, but not within this project. So basically what we do is we first import 4 data sets from Kaggle. These data sets should be in the Crimes in Chicago data folder. And then what we initially do is analyze any missing data. And this table tells you the amount of missing data, the amount of percentage of missing data per attributes. And then what we'll do is we'll combine the 4 data sets into one to produce one conglomerate data set from the years of 2001 to 2016. And then afterwards, what we do is convert the time data in order to be able to use it as like a time series and sort it well. Also, it allows us to sort of have a consistent time format and read things on a 0 to 24 hour scale as opposed to a 1 to 12 AM PM scale as it is noted here. And then afterwards, we explore like null values. One sort of attribute that we explored in detail was ward because it had so many missing data. And then afterwards, we sort of explored what kind of labels were used per each attribute. And this df total unique basically shows a summary of all the labels used for a specific attribute. Afterwards, we printed out the number of unique labels per column because we wanted to see how many sort of descriptors there were for each attribute. Afterwards, the next part was to really drop the columns that we didn't want to use. A lot of this process, as you can read in detail over here, was based off if we had a lot of repetitive data or if we thought some information overlapped or if the information was just unnecessary. Eventually, after we repeat this process, we are now left to drop the data with missing observations. However, you can note here that of the columns that we have left, most of them don't have that much missing data. Like even if we were to add these up, it would be less than 5% of the data. So we could essentially drop all those columns. However, we did not want to lose other observations that could provide valuable info. Therefore, we filled the column location description with unknowns if there was missing data, and also districts with unknown as well. And we put values 0 for the latitude and longitude column if the data for the location was missing. And that was in part because there wasn't any data at those coordinates, and it would allow us to distinguish the sort of missing data from the non-missing data, but also still use the data from the other columns for those observations. Another thing that we did was we sort of expanded out the date criteria over here. We created columns for hour, day, weekday, and month. So hour is when, like what hour that crime occurred. Day is basically what day of the month. So is it the first month? It's the first day of a specific month, the 31st or the 30th day. The weekday basically shows you Monday, Tuesday to Sunday. And the month is basically the month in which that crime occurred. The reason why we did that was so we could see if there were any trends over those specific attributes over time, perhaps. And then afterwards, we export this new data set with no missing values to the Crimes in Chicago data folder as a dataset.csv file.